Welcome back to the Tres Jolie channel, or my channel. I am here with the first cards, tags, and more kit of the year. There is 4 6x6 pieces of black chipboard here. 49 in Market Flowers. Some Tres Jolie butterfly chipboard, some resin embellishments, this little bonus sheet here from Craft O'Clock, and the 6x8 pad cardstock sticker sheet and layered sticker package from the Simple Stories Simple Vintage Weathered Garden Kit, or line, yeah, line. And for this one, I've already pulled out a few of those Simple Story papers that are, I'm just focusing right now on ones that have some pretty basic patterns, not really so much a print, but just the pattern side of them. And I am thinking I'm going to use 2 of those chipboard panels, and I'm going to kind of make a mini album. And I'm going to try to do it with a Coptic stitch binding. So this is going to be more or less my kit only project, but I will have to bring in basic. I think I'm only really going to need, in addition to adhesives, is some kind of threading material to use for the Coptic binding. Right now I'm thinking that that's the only non-kit item, so something that's relatively easy to find. You can get waxed covered book binding thread, specifically already coated in wax. I will show you once I dig it out right now what I am talking about. I have some for my junk journal making. You can get wax coated thread that's already ready to just use, heavy duty, nice and strong. A few different colors to choose from there. You can, and I only say the wax coated one because it will make it easier to pull through. Or, and I don't know if I will use it, you can get just little rolls of some kind of twines, but they may be harder to pull through. So if you were to do something like this, you could get yourself wax. This is you can find these in your sewing section. It's used a lot. A lot of quilters use it if you're doing hand quilting for the same purpose as these being pre-coated. It makes it easier for your threads to go through the fabric, and the wax coating does tend to help keeping it from getting tangled. Kind of lost my train of thought there. And you don't even necessarily need to go get something special. You can just as easily go find yourself a candle and just run whatever thread or twine that you want to use on a candle. Just a plain one. Probably only, I think it was only a couple dollars. And you can have that around for it. I think that's all there really is. Now I haven't decided. I like this. It's a twine and I like the color of it. So I don't know if I'll use this. I don't know if I'll use one of these. It may depend on how well I can get it coated or how it comes out coated. Because being kind of like I think it's kind of like a dyed jute. That's what it feels like. It is kind of fray-ish. So I'll work along and see how that comes along. So first I'm going to kind of decide exactly how I'm going to do this. How many signatures I might make. And, oh, actually, there will be one other thing that's also a very common item. And I'm probably going to just use, like a heavier printer paper. One that's a little heavier, maybe kind of the nicer ones. It depends on kind of what I come across. You can use any kind of paper you want, really. This is going to be like, I'm kind of thinking album journal type of thing, memory book. Once again, as with basically every project I do ever, my beginning part kind of morphs as I go along. So I'm going to go grab up some paper, decide on my thread, and kind of work out my layout, work out exactly how I'm going to do this, and then come back and show you how I'm putting it together. Alright, I have started my work on all of this. These are the measurements that I'm using for my hole spacing. I'm going to grab this up. I have a picture of this on the blog, but I went 1/2 inch up, 1/2 inch spaces, and then a 1 inch space, and then 2 more 1/2 inch spaces, 1 inch, and then 3 more 1/2 inch spaces, so that I have holes, well, holes at all these intersections here. Now, you don't need a hole punch. In fact, this pretty good sized needle here was just about, if I put it on a soft surface, I could have used that needle to poke it through. I, however, am fortunate enough, I have a paper or a hole punch that's got a very, let me see if I can kinda get it into focus, very, very small hole punch. Don't know where it came from, like so many items I come across. And I punched my holes. Oh, and this is 3/8 of an inch in. I should make sure I mark that somewhere or other. I'll write a note for myself. There we go. Okay. So, now to make sure that all my holes are as lined up as they can be, I actually used my scoreboard just because it was big and it's thick enough that I am able to line these up together in the corner like so. And then I just grab this needle and poke through the holes just enough to make some little marks so I can punch these holes out. For my signatures inside, I just have these 6 sheets of the paper, and I scored them. I didn't cut them. I just scored them at 2 1/4 inches so that inside the cover they'll be just a little bit away from this edge, but still be top to bottom. So one side will be big and the other side will just be a smaller flip. So there's that. Now for the various papers that I'm going to put in my signatures. I printed out just some kind of graph, kind of lines, some dashed lines, like so, not all straight. I don't know if it wants to focus. There it goes. So it kind of looks sketched a little bit. Now I happen to have just a little monochrome laser printer. I got lucky a few years back and found it in the clearance aisle for $35. So I picked that right on up. Anyhow, I cut them down to various sizes. It's just 8.5 by 11 paper, and I'm going to show you kind of the papers I was talking about that you can just go and get in the stationery section. That linen business paper, some parchment paper, or so it says. I had a couple other, just, you can see that these were kind of destroyed boxes, and I just decided to use up the papers that were in them. I have some satin inkjet, and then this was just some matte finish imaging and photo paper, but it wasn't thick like photo paper. It is still, I don't know, paper-y. It was just, it's 37-pound paper in there. So I have like 24-pound papers and 37 and some 26-pound paper. A little heavier than regular printer paper, but still very easy to find in regular stores, Target, Walmart, anything like that. It's not special paper. Okay. I'll put up the pictures. I did save my lines as photos, JPEGs, so if you want to use the lines I made, then you can. And I have cut at various sizes. These are just, I kept them at the 11 inches, and then I cut it in half, and so I think it's about 4. I might have trimmed a little bit. Well, no, I didn't. 4 1/4. And I'm going to fold these ones in half, like so. And I did print on both sides. I should say that. I did print on both sides. So these ones will be folded in half and stuck in like this. Well, like this in the signatures, some form or another. I have some that are almost the complete 8.5 by 11. I just kind of trimmed around the edges a little bit there, and they will get folded in half to be put in. Like this, and I will line them up at the top so that after they're sewn in, I'll probably just grab a pair of scissors, maybe just tear it, maybe tear the bottoms. I don't know, maybe make it a fold up. Kind of gonna wait and see how things are going there. I have some that are, let's see, these are 9 inches by 6, so that now they'll just be the same height as these papers, not quite all the way across. Some more bigger ones, but a little bit different. And then some, I think these are the full 11, and I cut them at 6. So I just kind of randomly cut different sized papers that are all going to start as being folded in half, and then I will start placing them into the signatures I want them to go in, then come back and grab an awl and start poking my holes through the papers so that it will be ready for the Coptic seam binding. Alright, I have my papers all punched with holes, and I'm just going to kind of go over what I did. I used one of my covers, and I just grabbed up one of the scrap pieces that I had cut off of my printed sheets and lined it up on it and just poked through holes from the holes in the cover. And then I just added these lines here so that I would have the ends marked so I could line it up on the fold marks. So all I did is grab my pattern paper, and my foam mat here has a grid on it, so it does make it a little bit easier. I lined up my fold on a line, and then I came in and lined up those little lines that I had marked on here on the line, and then came through. You can use a big needle like this. I'll lay there, big needle on anything really that you can poke with, and I just poked those holes. And I did do this one separately, and then on my printed pages I only did a few at a time, just so that there wouldn't, hopefully I wouldn't have any sliding going on. On the ones that are not 6 inches, I just lined them up, and then I eyeballed the center this way, just kind of making sure that I had the same amount of holes left off, which for all these it was only one on the top and one on the bottom that is left off. Use those lines to line up and punch the holes that were there. And then on all the other ones, just the same process as this. I made sure to go from one end, since they are longer. Some of them are longer and some of them are shorter. So from one end, I'll just try to hold it up. You can kind of see my holes go from here to here. There's no holes down here because that is the part that is longer than the cover. Okay, that's all there really was to it for my hole punching. So now I have 6 signatures all punched and ready, and I am going to kind of clean my little marks off here, and then get my thread ready and start doing the Coptic binding. Oh wait, no I'm not. I almost forgot. I don't really need to erase this too good, because I am going to cover the outside with some of the paper. As soon as I figure out where I put my pad. There we go. I am going to get some covers going. One of them, the front cover, will be this heart here. And I'll find one for the back. And then I'm just going to put them on, glue them down good, smooth them down good with my bone folder, and then come back through and just poke the holes through my cover sheets. Alright, as I went and put my front on, I decided I did need something on the inside of the cover, but I wanted to also make it kind of functional. So I just pieced together parts of the papers that I had cut down when I trimmed my papers for my signatures. So I'm going to now just let these dry, make sure they're all the way dry before I try sewing them together. And I may, before I do that, or at least on the covers, maybe I will add in some stickers. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to see how it's looking when I come back and kind of start setting it together, and kind of trying to visualize exactly which thread that I want to use on it. Alright, my covers have dried, so I am going to start putting the sewing or the seam together, sewing the seam on. I am using some size 5 cotton pearl thread in this kind of variegated orange. I really kind of like this pop of color. You can see against those muted colors. You can use any color thread you want to do your binding. I have my needle, and you can see the difference. This is the thread in its natural state there, as opposed to it coated in some wax with my little thing there. Okay, so I will put the link to the Coptic instructions that I am also going by right now, but I will also kind of try to explain it as I go along. I may or may not, depend on how long this actually takes, I may pause it and do a sped up version with just a voiceover. So probably gonna have to see how quickly this comes along, just so that it doesn't get too out of hand in length. So to start, you start at the back. So I'm putting my back cover down. so it's ready. And I just flipped this over like so. And you get going in your holes here, starting from the inside and working your way through. Now in my case, I have to remember that I have a couple pages in each signature that did not get a top and bottom hole. So I'm just going to kind of hold them in place once I get this turned around. Alright, get my bottom signature and working on the bottom hole first and going from the inside page out. I am just going to start pulling my needle through. Remember, I have a couple pages in each signature that do not have that very top and very bottom hole, so I'm just going to hold them in place for now and hope it doesn't cause me too much trouble in the future. Okay, so that first hole is pulled through. I'm going to place it on my back cover and then wrap it around and come up through the bottom there. And then after you come up through, let me kind of make sure everything's going to be going the same way. So let me get this on this side. Okay. Alright, so after you come through and wrap around the bottom and then come up through, and then you wrap the needle around like so through that loop. Like that. And then put your needle back through that same hole that you just came out of. Okay, you see all that? And then you repeat that with the next hole up and work your way through all of the holes. I will be stopping before I insert into the last hole, so I'm gonna do the next 7 holes here and then come back and talk about the last hole. I am all the way to the last hole and I just have it pulled through. Maybe I'll go like this. Try to block out the background so it'll focus up higher. There, I just have it pulled through, not wrapped around yet. So when you get to the last hole on this first signature, you go through like you had been, and then go through your cover the same, and get it back through there so I can keep wrapping the same direction. Wrap it around the same as you had been. And now this is where on all these other holes you would go back through the same hole. Now is time to add your next signature, and you do that by putting it on. And this is where, instead of going back through the same hole, you are now going to go through that top hole on the next signature. Now with this drawn through, the process is going to be just about the same. Come back through your next hole down, and to hold everything together, you loop around the stitch underneath. So there, you come down and you're going to loop around the previous signature's stitch. Pull it tight, and after you do that, you go back through that same hole you just came from, and there you have it. That's all there is to adding all of these signatures on here. You are going to do the same thing through all of your holes. When you get to the last hole, you connect the same way you did and work your way through. So I'm going to finish adding all of my signatures, and then come back when it's time to do the front cover. Alright, I am to the final signature and the front cover. So after you come through and wrap around out of that top hole, or whichever direction you went, the final hole on that next to last signature, you're actually just, I have this just here, and I'm going to kind of clip it just so it quits sliding around on me while I'm moving things around to talk about what I'm doing. There we go. And you put your cover in place, and you're actually going to come up and through your cover. It's sort of like the opposite of how you did the back cover. So up and through that cover, and then you see you're coming out between the cover and the signature, and you're going to still do a loop like so, and then bring that needle through the first hole in this final signature, and then come back out. Now I'm going to come back and tighten these up since I'm still kind of trying to show. And then come back out the next hole down in between the cover there. Let me get this tightened up here, and you are going to repeat that process all the way down your holes. My stitching is done. I have it all together. Mine's a little tight, so be careful on your stitching. Don't pull it too tight, because mine is a little on the tight side, but I think I'll be okay with it. And now, with my longer pages that I left out so that I could get it together and still think about what I wanted to do, I just found the center of the signature and just cut along that fold up to the bottom of the cover, and then just randomly went through the pages one at a time and either folded them up like this or gave them a rough bottom. I like the rough bottom on them. I think it adds just a little bit more texture and interest to the overall notebook here. And you don't want too many folded up anyhow, just because then this bottom edge of your book would end up thicker than what you had been stitching for. And especially in my case, since I did pull a little too tight. So I just went through and then maybe would fold up one here and there like this. And now the base product is completed. And I'm not going to throw these away. These are all my tore off ends. I'll just stick them in my little scrap box. You never know when a nice, rather neutral piece of torn paper will come in handy, especially if you do art journaling, anything like that. Even on scrapbook pages, you already have a tore edge here. And so now I'm going to kind of trim these down a little bit. These are my ends here. I am going to look through some of the bits that came in the kit. The sticker sheet, maybe cut something here, and possibly one of these resin pieces. So I'm going to kind of look through, just put some random stickers in, and probably actually be really close to done. Alright, my little journal is done. You can use it for writing, tucking pictures in on the pages. If you gessoed the pages, you could turn them into art journal pages. Your options are basically limitless on this little journal, and it is actually a rather easy project. The stitching is the most time consuming and the hardest part, and any supplies in here that I used that weren't from the kit are basic tools, anything you could really get at any store, because you don't need specific bookbinding thread. You can just get some heavier pearl cotton thread and some wax to make it easier. Just using regular office paper, well, the heavier weight business weight paper, also known as resume paper, because it has that cotton linen blend in it, and they have different textures. You could use any like printed paper you have. And you have a little journal here all together. I added a few of the stickers in. I cut out the Learn to Fly and just grabbed a pin and added some, there we go, added some faux stitching around it. Turned some of those little tickety looking stickers into some tabs. Just stuck them on and folded them over. And I didn't really count. I just would flip to a page and put something on it. Put one of the tickets there. One of the larger stickers that says absolutely amazing day. And now it is done. I was thinking of putting one of these resin embellishments on, but I didn't really see how I didn't really get it to, it didn't really fit for me, I guess I should say. But I don't know what kind of double-sided tape that Melissa Francis uses. Just be careful pulling them off. They are resin and they're not real thick, but I think if you were to try to like pull, especially on the longer one here, you would probably break it. that's why I grabbed something to kind of loosen it. All I know is I kind of really wish I knew what this double-sided tape was. Anyhow, just thought I'd kind of talk about that. So this project is complete. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you will always know when new project videos come out or the reveal videos at the beginning of the month. Thank you, and I will see you again next week.